I have to be honest. I've always thought of shyness as sort of a system error, you
I
know?
plug in the code.
Exactly. It's a hurdle, something you're supposed to fix with, like
Yeah.
exposure therapy or just forcing yourself to warm up. But the source we're looking at today, it suggests my whole model is just wrong.
It really is a complete reframe.
It talks about something called shyness without schedules.
Right. And instead of seeing it as a deficit or, as the text puts it, fear disguised as planning, it presents it as a natural softness without a timetable.
Which, okay, that sounds poetic,
Yeah.
but let's be real for a second. In a professional setting, without a timetable, usually just means you're late or you're not interested.
And that's the perception it challenges. The argument is really about the cost of the countdown. That feeling of T minus 10 minutes until you have to be on and charming.
Yeah, the performance anxiety.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you remove that countdown, you aren't fixing the person. You're actually just changing the entire environment.
But I'm still stuck on. How do you tell that apart from just flaking on people? If I cancel plans because I don't feel ready, isn't that just classic avoidance?
And that is the crucial distinction the text makes. It says very clearly this is not strategic avoidance.
Okay.
Avoidance is calculated. It's based in fear. This is something else. It's described as sensitivity honoring its rhythm.
Honoring its rhythm.
Yeah. It's like the difference between locking your door because you're scared of who might knock versus just leaving the door ajar and waiting until you feel a genuine pull to walk through it.
So it's more about the speed of entry than the entry itself.
Right. The source mentions that the body, it takes time to feel safe. The voice waits until it's ready. It's almost biological. If you force a system to perform before it feels that safety,
Yeah.
it's going to get defensive.
Which brings us to this Bloom versus Brace concept I saw in the notes.
Yes, this is the core mechanic. So when you impose a schedule on a shy temperament, you must be fun and engaging by 7:00 p.m. The system braces.
It tightens up. It prepares for impact.
Precisely. And that, ironically, makes you less fun and less connected because all your energy is going into
Guarding yourself.
you're defending, not connecting. But the text argues that when you take those schedules away, that same system gets to bloom. It calls this organic visibility.
Organic visibility.
Speech isn't forced out. It arrives when the internal processing is actually complete.
Okay, but practically speaking, how does that work in a real conversation? I can't just sit there in silence for 5 minutes waiting to bloom while the other person is, staring at me.
Well, the source addresses this. It suggests a new set of rules of engagement. A key part of that is normalizing pauses without apology.
Pauses without apology. Wow. That's a heavy phrase.
Think about it. How often do we say, sorry, just give me a second, or fill silence with noise because we feel awkward? This framework says, just stop. It encourages quiet without explanation. The point is, you aren't resisting the interaction itself. You're only resisting the force being applied to it.
So you're changing the silence from being an awkward void to, I don't know, a functional space.
It becomes a workspace. You're letting the thought actually form before you push it out into the world.
And the claim is that the resulting communication is just better.
It's higher fidelity. The text says that when you stop forcing the timeline, you're waiting for alignment. That's the real goal here.
Waiting for alignment.
Yeah, just holding that quiet space until your internal state finally matches the external moment.
And what happens when that alignment hits?
No hesitation, only sincerity. That's the payoff. The promise is that if you wait until you are genuinely ready to speak, you're not performing anymore. You're actually finally present.
It's interesting. We tend to prioritize speed in conversation, witty comebacks, quick replies. This model prioritizes authenticity.
It prioritizes trust, really. Trust that the connection will happen even if you don't strong-arm it into existence in the first 5 seconds.
So for everyone listening who maybe checks their watch or gets anxious about those lulls in conversation, this is sort of an invitation to experiment.
Absolutely. Just try removing the deadline from your next interaction and see what happens.
It really leaves us with a final thought to mull over, doesn't it? If we stop seeing silence as a problem to be solved or a hole that needs to be frantically filled, we might just discover that the most sincere connections aren't the ones we schedule at all. They're the ones we simply wait for.